The morning was cold, and the palace walls stood tall like golden mountains. Outside the gate, a small barefoot boy stood quietly, holding a torn brown bag close to his chest. His name was Tunde. His face was covered in dust, and his eyes were tired but shining with something rare hope. The guards laughed when they saw him. "Go away, street rat!" one shouted and pushed him to the ground. But Tunde didn't move. He picked up his bag and whispered, "Please, I must see the queen." People passing by stopped and stared. How could a poor boy talk about meeting the queen? They pointed and laughed. But Tunde only looked up at the high golden gate, his lips trembling as he said again, "I have something that belongs to her." Inside his bag was something powerful, a torn letter with the royal seal, one that could change everything. If you were watching him right now, what would you do? Would you turn away or help him take one more step toward the palace? Sometimes, one small act of kindness can change a whole story. The wind grew stronger. The boy stood firm, even as the guards shouted again. Then, from the tallest palace window, a woman appeared, a queen with eyes that held both wisdom and sadness. Her gaze fell on the small boy below. Something inside her stirred, and in that single moment, everything began to change. The queen, Adana, had seen many faces at her gate: rich traders, crying mothers, proud soldiers, but never a child like this. His stubborn courage caught her heart. "Bring that boy inside," she said softly. The guards froze. "Your Majesty, he's a beggar." But she raised her hand. "Bring him in." Tunde's heart raced as the huge gates opened for the first time in his life. The shining floors reflected his torn shirt. The guards stared at him with disgust, but the queen's eyes were kind. "What's your name, child?" she asked. "Tunde," he whispered. "And why are you here?" He slowly opened his bag and brought out the letter. "This, it belongs to you." The queen took it gently. Her fingers trembled as she saw the seal, an old royal mark that hadn't been used since the king died 10 years ago. Her voice cracked. "Where did you get this?" Tunde swallowed hard. "My mother gave it to me before she died." The queen's face turned pale. That seal belonged only to her late husband. But how did this poor boy have it? Who was he? The hall fell silent. The queen's heart began to race like never before. She asked everyone to leave the room. Her voice was calm, but her hands shook. She turned to the boy and asked softly, "Who was your mother?" The boy looked down. "Her name was Muna." The queen gasped. "Muna was once a maid in the royal palace years ago, before the fire that destroyed the royal nursery." Tunde continued. "She told me that my father was a great man, but she never said his name. She said if anything happened to her, I should bring this letter to the queen." Tears filled his eyes. "I had to walk for days, sleep on the bridges, but I promised her I would make it." The queen opened the letter slowly. It was written by her late husband, the king. The words burned through her soul. "If anything happens to me, protect our son. He is the light of Elira. I say, be." Her breath caught. Her eyes widened. Could this homeless boy be her son? That night, the queen sat by the window holding the letter. Her mind was full of memories: her baby, the fire, the screams, the day she was told her son had died. But what if he hadn't? She called her trusted servant. "Find out everything about this boy. I want to know the truth." For days, the palace buzzed with whispers. Some said the queen had lost her mind. Others said the boy used magic. But the queen didn't care. She sent for the royal doctor. They took a secret test. The results came days later. When the queen opened the envelope, her eyes filled with tears. The test was positive. The boy was indeed her lost son, the prince of Elira. She fell to her knees and whispered, "My child, you came back to me." But she knew the kingdom wouldn't accept him easily. He was homeless, poor, and unknown. The truth was dangerous. Still, she promised herself no one would ever hurt him again. Yet far away, someone else had already heard the news, and they were not happy. Prince Darius, the queen's nephew, had dreamed of wearing the crown all his life. When he heard that a street boy was being called prince, rage filled his heart. "That boy doesn't belong here," he shouted, breaking a glass. His mother warned him, "Stay calm, Darius. Let's wait and see." But Darius smirked. "No, if he stays, I lose everything." Meanwhile, the queen began to teach Tunde how to read, how to speak, and how to stand tall like a prince. The boy learned quickly. He was kind, humble, and brave. Even the servants began to like him. One day, the queen held his hand and said, "Tunde, a crown doesn't make you royal. Your heart does." Her words sank deep. But outside the palace walls, dark eyes watched him. A plan was already being made to end his story before it truly began. Late one night, Tunde heard footsteps outside his door. He opened his eyes and saw a shadow move across the wall. Before he could speak, someone grabbed him. A cloth covered his mouth. He kicked and fought. Suddenly, the door burst open. The queen's guards rushed in. The men fled into the dark. The queen ran in holding a lamp. Her face went pale when she saw the knife on the floor. "Who did this?" she cried. The guard bowed. "Your Majesty, the men wore the royal mark of Prince Darius." The queen's eyes turned cold. For the first time, anger burned in her heart. She realized this was not just about power, it was about family, betrayal, and the truth that the kingdom wasn't ready for. She knew she had to protect her son no matter the cost. Days later came the royal festival, a day of joy and dance. The queen walked with grace beside Tunde, who now wore clean royal clothes. The people stared, whispering, "Is that the lost prince?" But joy turned to chaos when arrows suddenly flew through the air. Guards fell, screams filled the palace. The queen pulled Tunde behind her. "Stay down!" she shouted. Men in black masks stormed the hall. Then something brave happened. Tunde picked up a falling sword. Though his hands shook, he stood before his mother. "You won't hurt her," he cried. His voice echoed through the palace. Guards returned, fighting fiercely. At last, the attackers were caught. One man confessed Prince Darius had sent them. The queen's heart broke, but she stood strong. "This ends now," she said. Next morning, the queen called the entire kingdom to the royal court. The sun shone brightly as thousands gathered. Tunde stood beside her. The queen raised the letter high and spoke. "This boy was once homeless, but today I call him what he truly is, Prince Tunde, the rightful heir of Elira." Gasps filled the crowd. Some bowed, others wept. Even the guards who once mocked him dropped to their knees. The queen took off her golden necklace and placed it around Tunde's neck. "He was lost," she said softly, "but now he's found." The boy looked at her, tears rolling down his face. "Mother," he whispered. The crowd cheered. Trumpets sounded across the land. The lost prince had returned. Years passed. The kingdom of Elira grew peaceful again. Tunde became a wise young leader, kind and just. But he never forgot the streets he came from. He built homes for children with no families and called it the Queen Adana Home of Hope. At the opening, he stood before a crowd of orphans and said, "Once I slept under bridges. Now I stand in a palace. Never stop believing that your story can change." The queen watched him proudly, tears glimmering in her eyes. She had lost everything once, but love brought it all back. And when the drums of a lyra beat that evening, the kingdom didn't just celebrate a prince. They celebrated hope, kindness, and the miracle of a mother and son who found each other again.